So today we're going to be talking about harnessing the power of people. And I'd like to start with a little story. Once upon a time, I moved down to Nashville, Tennessee to be a songwriter, and I needed a job. So I went down to the Grand Ole Opry complex to get a job as a security guard. And so I worked there at the Grand Ole Opry, at Opryland Hotel, and at Opryland Park. So one night I was in the park and this gentleman came up to me and he says, "Can you tell me where the car sale is?" And I wasn't quite sure what he said. So I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Yes, can you tell me where the car sale is?" Now there's a hotel there, so I thought maybe they have a convention and they have some kind of auto show that's going on. So I said, well, okay, what you're going to need to do is go up to the hotel there. And he stopped me and he said, no, the car sale. You know that thing with the horses that goes round and round? And I said, oh, a carousel. And he says, well, that's what I've been explaining. Okay. So we had a problem, didn't we? We thought we communicated, but we did not connect. He heard one thing, I heard another. We didn't connect. The problem with communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished. George Bernard Shaw, isn't that true? Lots of us are in relationships and we constantly run into the idea of what we have here is a failure to communicate. I certainly do in mine. It happens more often that I would like it to happen, but it does happen that way. But it's all about people. We need to learn how to connect with people. So I've developed a little quiz. It's a little dry, lengthy, so just hold on. I hope you'll enjoy it. Once we get into it, it's called the People Quiz. It's only 3 questions long, but here we go. Ready? What percentage of your customers are people? You're in business, you have customers. What percentage are people? What percentage of your coworkers are people? Well, that's where we kind of look around the room and get a little question. All right. What percentage of your family members are people? Well, that's where we start to roll down the hill, don't we? Yeah, now, leaving out the stories about Uncle Fred and Aunt Ethel, the obvious answer is, of course, 100%. Okay. So our goal is to be able to communicate with people and then connect with them. So today we're going to be talking about connecting with people in 3 areas. Number 1, knowing yourself. Number 2, creating a true partnership with your team. And then I'm going to give you 6 specific examples on how to engage and connect. So number 1, authentic self. We want to have our authentic self. We cannot connect with anybody else until we truly are able to connect with ourselves. Green Bay Packers, yay. Vince Lombardi, their coach, once said, in all my years of coaching, I have never once been able to win using somebody else's plays. Everything had to come from him. He had to be authentically presenting himself. In 1991, I took my kids to go see Disney's animated movie musical Beauty and the Beast. And it was a huge success. They loved it. Disney thought this was really good. What we should try to do, they decided, was do something special, unique, a little bit risky with it. So they said, let's make it into a stage musical. And not one, at one of the parks, but in New York City on Broadway. Now that was something they'd never done before. It was quite a big risk. So as they talked about this, they said, okay, how are we going to have to change this to make it more New York? So the critics in New York, who are quite caustic sometimes, are going to like this. So they had this big discussion going on. And finally, Michael Eisner, who was the CEO of Disney at the time, stepped in and he said, listen, we're not Stephen Sondheim. We're not Rodgers and Hammerstein. We're not Kander and Ebb. Who are we? We are Disney. We have to know who we are and present that on the stage, and people will like it or they won't. And of course, down through the years, they've been proved right because it has been a very successful show. So once we figure out who we are, we want to then be able to share that with others, open up. We need to be able to listen to them, right? There is an old saying that says, talk so people will listen, right? We can accept that. What I would like to do is suggest turning that around, flipping it around, and we want to listen so people will want to talk. We want to have them relaxed and to open up. Be curious about what they are curious about. We want to be able to get the very best out of them, to make them feel comfortable, safe, heard. So don't interrupt, listen, don't judge, listen. Don't think about what you're going to say, just listen. They'll be engaged, they will feel connected. I've got an example. As Aaron said, I used to write for television, the Nashville Now Show, on the Nashville Network. It was a 90-minute live television show where we had guests, very much like the Tonight Show. And my job was to write the opening monologue, write the introduction to the guests, and to interview all of the guests that were on the show to find out what they wanted to talk about. So, and then I would create these little blue cards with questions on it, and I would lay it on the desk so that the host could look at it and know what the guest wanted to talk about. So one night we had a guest host, and the country artist came on, and they were talking. It was going along great. The first question the host asked was, I hear you took some time off from the road for a little vacation. Where did you go? Exactly what was on the card? Perfect. Okay. Well, the country artist said, man, we went down to Fiji. We had an absolutely great time. We laid on the beach, got a suntan, went fishing, swimming. We even swam with the sharks. We had a great time. But I tell you, there was a moment there when I really thought I was going to lose my life. It was dangerous. Well, if you were the guest host and you heard this, what do you think your follow-up question would be? Well, you want to know more about it. Tell me what happened. What, how dangerous was it? Okay. Well, the host that night didn't do that. He said, so tell me about your new single. He wasn't even listening. He didn't hear anything about Fiji and about the shark. He was too concerned with what he was going to say that he missed this beautiful introduction to continuing that story, and instead said, so let me tell you, or tell me about your new single. Part two, partnership, coming together as the beginning, working together is progress, working together is success. All right, so we want to have people work together as a team. From my theater experience, I have a cast of 10, right? There are 10 individuals to begin with, and I need to mold them into a whole, into a single unit. And we want everybody to work together and be responsible for each other. There's an old saying, finish the theatrical phrase. Do people know this? Anybody know this phrase? There are no small parts, only, I see a few heads nodding. Yeah, correct. There are no small parts, only small actors, right? Okay. Well, that's when somebody gets the part they didn't want. They said, it's too small for me, not enough stage time, not enough lines. It's not worth my effort to go to rehearsal to do this. Well, that's not good. That's not the kind of person we want involved in our team, right? Because we know, right? We know that every position is important. No matter the size, everything is important. Let me give you just two quick examples. We're doing an Agatha Christie murder mystery. All right, the cast is on stage. And we've come to the moment where the telephone's supposed to ring to announce the arrival of the inspector who's going to solve this problem. So the lines are delivered and the phone's supposed to ring. It doesn't ring. What do? They are looking around. Okay, finally the phone does ring. Somebody goes, picks it up, starts to talk, and the phone continues to ring, right? We've seen that happen all the time. Well, not hopefully all the time, but we got a problem. The sound designer did not do their job. All right, a little bit later, we have figured out who the murderer is, and we've got him backed up against the wall. The murderer's up there, and he reaches into a chest of drawers here, and is supposed to pull out a knife to fend them off and then to escape, right? Well, he's backed up there, opens up the dresser, and there's no knife there. There's no knife there. Yet we get a big problem. Little moment, big problem. What happened? The prop master forgot to put the knife in there. So all of these, and whether there's a board meeting where somebody's responsible for the copies, somebody's responsible for the PowerPoint, for the projections, all of it, everybody needs to do their job. So instead of, there are no small parts, only small actors, I suggest there are only key personnel. No matter the size of the responsibility, it is always important. So for a team, we want team members to exude the right attitude, are diverse in experience and talent, offer unique and qualified perspectives, demonstrate a responsibility towards themselves and others, and believe in their ownership. I only want to briefly talk about two. The first one is attitude. Earl Nightingale said attitude is the magic word. Bart Starr, the Green Bay Packer quarterback, said next to love, the most important word in the English language is attitude. Let me give you an example. In 2014, there was a Broadway musical called Something Rotten. Two brothers, the Bottom brothers, are trying to write plays, but this other guy off to the side is just doing it much better than they are. This guy named William Shakespeare. So they can't do anything. So they go to the soothsayer and says, we need some help. Tell us what the next big thing's going to be. And the soothsayer says, it's going to be something called a musical. So that's the premise of the show. Really fun show. They are up for 12 Tony Awards. Pretty good. So the night of the Tony Awards, they go, first one up, they win. They are 1 for 1, right? Next 11, they all lose totally everything. They were 1 for 12 for the night. So they went home and said, okay, what are we going to do? You know, we've got our tail between our legs. Do we just close the show and run away? And they said, no, we're going to take this and we are going to flip it. So the next day in the New York Times, a full-page ad was placed and it read this: Loser, Best Musical 2004. So they owned it. They flipped it. They owned it. It's not what happens to you. It's how you react to it that really matters. Okay. The other is responsibility. Everybody is responsible no matter what the task is. I've got a theater rehearsal at 7 o'clock. We've got a committee meeting at 7 o'clock, let's say. I go in at 6:45, 6:50 to do my job. I walk in and I expect, hope, people, the stage manager will have the lights on, the floor swept, and be setting up the props and the sets needed for rehearsal at 7. The actors should be off warming up their body and their voice. So at 7 o'clock, we can just go. That's good responsibility, right? Another example. It's opening night, and one of my lead actors comes up to me and says, listen, Phil, I really appreciate you giving me this role. And Hamlet, man, Hamlet, big role, and I appreciate it. And I understand that tonight is opening night, yes. But listen, I promise that I'll have all of my lines tomorrow, right? That's not taking responsibility. Opening night and you don't have your lines. We don't want that. We want people that are responsible. All right, so part 3, putting partnership into practice. We want to engage. We want to connect with these people. So how can we do this in theater, as in all, everything else? We have a lot of very artistic people involved. So we want to know how to treat them. So here are 6 best practices to engage and connect. Now, I'm not that bad at math. I know that there's only 4 listed there. The other 2 will come in just a moment. So number 1, be patiently persistent. Okay? An actor's on stage struggling with the line, the scene's not going well. My stage manager leans over and he says, "Do you see this?" And I says, "Yeah." "What are you going to do?" "Well, nothing." Because what you want to do is you don't want to go down and say, "Hey, here's how I want you to say the line." Because then from then on, they're going to say it exactly that way, and it's going to stop the show because it'll sound like it's coming from me, not from them, and not from the character. So I want to continually, patiently pursue questioning, ideas, getting them to figure it out, and not me. One size doesn't fit all, right? Grant Hill was a basketball player, went to Duke for 4 years, played for Coach K. While he was there, those 4 years, Coach K took each of those teams and coached them differently because the makeup of the team was different. One size didn't fit all. Number 3, admire and inspire. Make sure that you admire what the person is doing right. Sometimes it's just getting somebody to walk across the stage naturally, to do a stage turn, to be able to sit on stage, or to whatever it is in your field. Make sure that you admire and then say, let's go on from here and do even more. Admire and inspire. Number 4, new goals, new challenges. In your field, I'm sure you have people that are further along than others. In a play and rehearsal, I might have an actor who's already at an 8, 9, 10, and most of the others early in rehearsal are at 3, 4, 5s. Well, we don't want the person at 10 just to sit there, right? And wait for everybody to catch up. So we take their 10, move it back to a 5, and then give them a new 10. Give them new challenges and new goals. Okay? So to keep everybody moving. All right. As I said, number 5, director approach. I'm working with actors one-on-one or in small groups, and I want to really connect with them. Okay. So here's some of the things that I say that I have found very, very successful. I don't know. Let's figure it out together. Can you try something else? Tom Hanks thinks that's the best directorial advice he ever gets. Can you try something else? Can we try something else? That was an amazing choice. How can we build on that? My students will say, this is the one that I say all the time. Don't worry. That's why we rehearse. It's in the practice, in the preparation, where we continually take risks, where we go down one road and wind up saying, oh, dead end, come back and go down another road, and then go down again. Since we're spending so much time virtually, I just added this one for us. Okay? Some ideas on being a good virtual speaker. Good mic, good lighting, good look, attire, whatever you need. You should be in a medium shot, which I saw almost everybody was, about shoulder, armpits up, that's good. Slight low angle. The camera should actually, hit about shin, and then you should be, your eyes should be slightly above that. So it's a nice upward angle, just a little one, okay? Look into the camera, not Silence of the Lamb kind of stare, but a nice look into the camera, because that's where your audience is. be intimate with it. Okay? Engage, be personable, smile, use your body, use your names, right? We've got Tara, we've got Aaron, we've got Michael, we've got John here. So when you've had the possibility, do that. Feedback opportunities. You can chat, poll, hands, questions. Try to vary your preparation. Sometimes, you know, I've got all kinds of little things, yay. I also play the guitar. So on some of my presentations, I will have an appropriate song to give out. Number 6, okay, we want an environment of serious fun. Now this is number 1, this is number 2, this is all encompassing. It's not number 6 because it's last, okay? Fun is good. Fun is not a 4-letter word, right? If you want people to be engaged, make it fun. If you want people to come in early, stay late, make it fun. If you want people to take risks and be creative, make it fun. If you want people to stay with your company, make it fun. It's that important. There's a gentleman by the name of Roger Miller. Some of you might have heard him. He sang King of the Road, Do Waka Do, Dang Me, Dang Me. Well, back when I was in high school, I was able to see him in concert, and it was a really fabulous concert. Small group. It was on Okinawa, as a matter of fact, Officers Club on Okinawa. About 200 people there. He and a small band was there. It was fabulous. He really connected with us. So right in the middle of one of the songs, he stopped. And he said, you guys are the greatest audience I've ever had. So I'd like to do something different just for you. So he turned back to the band and he says, do you remember that song? The band said, yep. Do you remember what key? Yep. So off they went and they played a couple songs that weren't in his normal show. Okay. Wow, if that is not, you left that concert thinking you were really special. So about a week later, a friend of mine called up and he says, Phil, we're going to go see Roger Miller and I've got an extra ticket. Would you like to go see it? Okay. And I said, absolutely, sure. So we went and we were there and the concert was going really well. It's very nice. But I was sitting back there and I said, you know what, this is nice, but they're not going to get that special concert that we got last week. And then something really strange happened. Right in the middle of one of the songs, he stopped and he said, you guys are the greatest audience I've ever had. And he started to play some songs, turned back to the band. Yeah, they knew it. Yeah, they knew the key, and off they went. Okay. When I left that concert, 2 things. One, I was a little bummed, very honestly, that it wasn't the only concert that was special last week. But number 2, I was in total awe of his being able to give that connection, that spontaneity, that intensity to every audience that he was with. It was absolutely magnificent. Many years ago, when I was writing for television, I happened to be able to interview Roger Miller, and we were talking. And so I asked him about this, and he just smiled and he smiled, and he says, I just wanted to share the fun. And I remember it because it was so much fun, this concert, to be there. He connected with us. He engaged with us. So fun is important to be embedded in everything. So to close out here, I've got this final thought that I would like to leave you with. The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar and coffee. And I will pay more for that ability than for any other under the sun. The most important thing that we want to be able to do is not communicate with people, is to connect with people, see who they are, have them see who we are, and be engaged in that moment. John D. Rockefeller. Okay. So thank you so much. I do appreciate it, and I hope we got through it without any other snags after the first couple seconds. But thank you. Yay, it was great fun.